and PB podcast. In this weekly series, we're reading Twilight because Knilly's never read it and PB wants to send memes. I'm Knilly.
I'm PB.
And we're here to talk about the beginning of New Moon. We've started the next book in the Twilight saga. Woo! Before we get super started, though, I wanted to make a couple of fun little announcements. One is that we're on Spotify. We're on Spotify and other podcasting platforms. Woo! Thank you, Anchor.fm. Just search Knilly and PB podcast exactly as you would. You'll see us on Spotify. I also have an Anchor.fm link if you do !podcast in my Twitch chat if you're watching this live, or you'll see it in the description in whatever you're listening to on. And for those that are now listening only auditorially, welcome. Welcome to the sounds of our voices, and hopefully we'll get better about gesticulating. We talked about this in the previous episode, how we or maybe this was like offline, we commented on like, oh man, yeah, we should work on that. So yeah, welcome everybody to audio listener, audio only, video only, live listeners. Thank you all so much for being here. You can find all of the episodes from 0 through 8, which is the one that released. 8 that released this morning. I changed the episode number on myself. It was 7.5, but then I changed it to 8 last second. I made an executive decision. But yeah, that's exciting. So I'm going to work on getting us to like on your Apple at least, but tell me where you want to find us. It's very easy. But otherwise, you can find us on Spotify and Anchor FM right now, and Stitcher. So you can also find us on Stitcher. That is one I did do for the Android, some other Android folks. But I feel like Spotify is like pretty ubiquitous for all platforms right now. So yeah. So PB, shall we get to the book?
Yeah, let's get into the book. We started New Moon today.
Yep.
The second book of the Twilight saga.
Yep. Let me just say, PB said chapters 1 through 4. That's a lie. We read like 8 chapters. and we will get into exactly why, which I believe is, which we'll get into a little bit later when we get to that point. But I will say, PB, it did hit in Kindle exactly how you would have read it.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh man, I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, because they made it like a separate page. But yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there. But we open the book with it's Bella's birthday.
Before we even get into Bella's birthday,
okay,
I want to talk about something I found hilarious.
Sure.
So the dedication for this book that Stephanie Meyer did was for her father, Stephen Meyer. And what it is exactly is, for my dad, Stephen Meyer, no one has ever been given more loving and unconditional support than I have been given by you. I love you too. I thought, I mean, obviously that's really cute, completely and utterly unrelatable content for me, but I love you too. That's so effing funny, because we talked about it at least 3 episodes that Bella never says I love you too back to Edward. Edward always says I love you, and Bella always says I know. And so
I thought it was the opposite. It's the opposite. Bella always says I love you. Edward always says I know.
It might be both, to be honest with you.
It could be both.
That it might be their thing that they don't ever say I love you too. They always say I know. But I thought it was so funny that she wrote I love you too on there. Oh my gosh.
Listen, they're Star Wars fans.
Also, the like, I don't know what it's called. Like the
preface
quote before.
Oh, the Romeo and Juliet. I opened to that and I like audibly laughed. Like what?
Although good quote. It's a good quote.
It's one of the better quotes from Romeo and Juliet, I will say.
Shout out to the Shakespeare conglomerate on that one.
Yeah, we love Shakespeare here. Well, I don't know. I love Shakespeare. I don't know if that's surprising to anyone.
What? Oh my gosh. But we do it before even the birthday, we start off with the preface.
Oh, that's right, the dream.
The dream sequence, or the nightmare. Also, are like dreams or like dream prophecies big in Mormonism? Because Stephanie O'Reilly writes so many dream sequences in her books. Even in just Twilight, we had like 3 or 4 dream moments where we talk about something that like alludes to something in the future.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's like that. I mean, the whole premise of Mormonism with oh my gosh, what's his name? I watched this is this is gonna be very shitty of me to say, but a lot of my knowledge of Mormonism comes from the Book of Mormon musical, which a lot of it is
Phenomenal.
based in like how like the story of how they got their religion of this man, and I forget his, was it Joseph Smith? I don't know. It's some like
So
insert dude, like colonial dude name here. Um, like God came to him in a dream talking about these tablets, where to find them, but he couldn't tell anyone else about this dream because like that's like the point. It's faith and stuff like that. And there's a whole bunch of things, but like dream, someone coming to you in the dream is something that is referenced in like the founding of the religion. Is
mhm.
Stephanie Meyer necessarily pulling from that? I don't know. And then my other reference with this is that in the musical there is a musical number called Spooky Mormon Hell Dream. You can find the song music for Book of Mormon on Spotify and other music platforms. So if y'all want to experience that, I'll let you know. I'll let you do it, but I won't be spoiling a very wonderful musical for y'all.
Spoiler alert, it's about Mormonism.
It's about Mormonism.
But, I it just, like, occurred to me as we open the 2nd book with a dream sequence or a nightmare sequence in this
Yeah.
case, I was just like like, I also don't have dreams like that. Like, I never have I ever had a dream that was, like, it showing me what my issue was that I was having, like, my emotional state through a dream,
Hmm.
explaining it to me. I don't have therapy in my dreams. I go either on an adventure or I live, like, a day of my next day, or I go through conversations, or, like, maladaptive dreaming, but while I'm dreaming. So it
Interesting.
can't be maladaptive. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, is this what other people have, or do they have therapy in their dreams? Is that what life's like for other people?
I don't know. I would say like I dream pretty vividly sometimes. Um,
Mhm.
like I've had numerous times of the jarring awake, and not even just from falling, but from some moment in my dream that was incredibly like startling, or I can't believe I'm doing this, because like I have some weird, very realistic dreams, um, which I'm not going to divulge into here. But like, there's this whole idea where like dream, like when you're dreaming, and dreaming symbology like reveals what like kind of conflicts you're having in your psyche, etc., etc. I mean, obviously, your brain must be thinking about something in order to manifest it in some sort of state. Um,
Mhm.
but I don't know if I don't think I've ever had so much as like a therapy session in my dreams. It's either like a nightmare or a weird scenario that like sometimes it's incredibly awkward. I'm like, if it was happening to me in real life, like I don't know how I would be caught in a certain situation like that. Like sometimes it involves like people I haven't seen in like years, but in very weirdly friendly situations, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Haven't seen this person in years. Like it's so weird. It's very weird. And if there are dream folks in the in the chat or in the comments, you know what? Tell me that I have problems. I guess I probably do.
Speaking of, people you haven't seen in a while, Bella is having a dream in which she sees herself as
Yeah.
a old woman,
Who she
which
continues to
is
label
her
grand because she doesn't want to face that fact.
yeah, it's like it's her literal worst nightmare to grow old
Next to
and
Edward.
yeah, next to Edward. Because as we see in a lot of the first chapters is that Bella really holds Edward up on a huge pedestal and finds that, Edward giving her a chance, like, that is more than she could ever ask for. And any little more that, like, Edward throws on there, like, throws off the balance of their relationship, essentially, which obviously extremely toxic. Don't be like that. You're
Nope.
equals in a relationship. And so I I think it's very interesting because I think we even had the conversation last episode or last episode, the end of the Twilight episode, where we talk about how Bella and Edward's relationship kind of works in the way
Yeah.
that Edward's a vampire, Bella's a human. What does that mean dynamic wise? And I think we see a lot of that in these first 3 chapters.
Yeah. I especially like going into this and as going into the chapters in general, I really don't like obviously there's the obvious power dynamic of a vampire and human, right? But I
Mhm.
think in the way that I don't like the way that Bella is shaping this relationship where she believes that Edward holds all the cards. Um
Mhm.
in terms of like the emotional weight, which that's like incredibly unhealthy in any relationship in general. So like
Yeah.
it's just hard for me to also like I don't want to make it I don't want to give her a pass just because he is a vampire, but because he's a vampire that's trying to have like a human in quotes relationship. But
Yeah.
so he has to try too, is what is like what I'm getting at. And it's not just like she or rather it's not that because he doesn't have to try, I guess is what I'm saying, because she's just so enamored, which kind of
Yeah.
stinks. Like there's no the no reciprocation that we just talked about from the forward or the dedication rather is telling, is incredibly telling.
Although, again, I do believe they both have that they both say it a lot in the last few chapters of Twilight. It was Bella saying, "I know," and Edward saying, "I love you." So, it is, not just Bella or
Yeah.
Edward being like, "I know," to to Bella. However, yeah, it's tough as an adult, I guess, reading it, because even if you do look at it from, like, a vampire human standard and, like, that's still real effed up,
Yep.
because it means Bella has less free will in the situation, and it leads to the conversation of or the thought, how much of this is Bella and how much of this is just that Edward's a vampire?
Yeah.
But, like,
But
most other vampires seem to or most other humans seem to be kind of off-put by vampires, which, Stephanie Meyer brings back into light in chapter 1,
mhm.
where they're all sitting together at the table because the families kind of,
Yep.
started splitting off. A couple of them have graduated.
In quotes.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they went through graduation at high school, but they have not gone to Dartmouth or whatever. Like Rosalie and Emmett have left to go like hang out in Africa for a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, sure, why not?
Yeah, let's go to
They're hanging
Africa.
out down
I've
there.
always wanted to go.
You know what? I feel like that's big Emmett energy though,
mm,
because Emmett would wanna go to a country with a lot of big animals.
yeah,
That's probably, like, on his bucket list,
yeah,
like, take down a hippo or, take down, I don't know, a lion and
yeah.
see how those are like. So I guess that's on brand, and I think Rosalie's kind of just like, "Sure, honey, let's do it. It's your
Let's
turn this
go.
time." Like, maybe last lifetime, they did more
Rosalie
Rosalie-centric
things.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's his turn to pick the vacation.
Your turn to you know what? That's sharing the invisible load of planning and taking care of your relationship. That's just healthy relationship dynamics.
Of course, of course, of course, something that, Bella and Edward can learn about.
I know our 17 now 18-year-old Bella.
Yeah, and let's see, as we continue through the first chapter, um, it's like you said, Bella's
It's Bella's
birthday! Happy
birthday! We
birthday!
missed her birthday. It was actually like September something. Like it's
13th.
yeah, September 13th. Oh, oh, please tell me that at some point when she has if she has another birthday in this series that is a Friday. Like, please.
That would be hilarious. I don't
Like, because she
remember.
says like she's so unlucky. It's her fault because she's unlucky. First of all, Bella. First of all, Bella. Your luck is not in your control. That's not a your fault thing. I my I'm just gonna say throughout all these chapters, Bella is putting things on her that are not her in her control or her fault, and it made me so mad at her. I was incredibly
I
mad at
both
her.
of both of them do it though, so does Edward. It's why like, Bella is holding this is This is because of Renee. This is Renee's fault because because Bella always puts the needs of others before herself,
Sure. Yeah.
and Edward does the same thing. Edward's always like, "Oh no, woe is me. It is my fault. Everything bad that happens in the world is because of me. Because I'm awful. I'm a monster. If I didn't bring you into this world, you would be perfectly safe in your clumsy life." And Bella's like, "No, no, 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 it's me. I'm clumsy. That's my fault. Because of that, things happen." Both of them do not like Bella understands that it's an accident, but because Edward escalates every tiny thing, she has to like hold that emotional weight. Just like she would with Renee, because Renee is also a dramatic person, and therefore Bella always just is just like, "No, no, no, it's me, it's me, it's my fault. Like, no, 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 I'll take that. I'll take that emotional weight of the situation from you. So you can have a guilt-free conscience." Because Bella understands it's an accident. It's fine. No one died. Edward's like, "But you could have died. Everything could have gone
The
horribly
drama.
here." And so Bella holds like that emotional weight. Uh it is and that's because of Renee.
It all
Anyways,
comes down to
continuing on
parenting.
because that's what she anyways. Negative 1,000 from Renee. She didn't
Negative
even
1,000 for
appear
Renee. That's already. She's already the like. She was barely mentioned in these three chapters, and she's getting your L of the week already.
already because like so much of Bella is because of Renee. Not only that, we learned Renee was a kindergarten teacher
Yep.
in this chapter also. And I'm just like Renee shouldn't be near children. That's not something she should be.
Well, maybe she's so busy taking care of other people's kids that she neglects her own.
Renee doesn't even take care of herself, let
That's
alone
true.
other people. Renee's better off being in retail or something where she could talk somebody's ear off.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue with
Oh, I
your
don't know.
thoughts.
I'm here for that. But it's mostly that we're on birthday train, right? So it's her birthday, but she hates her birthday. Well, no, she doesn't necessarily hate her birthday. She doesn't really like attention in general, but she's in a sour mood from her nightmare, which makes her birthday like mood even worse. But lo and behold, Alice is incredibly excited for her birthday for Bella's
Yeah.
birthday. Um
As Alice always is. Honestly, Alice is like the best.
Alice is the best. Bellis is the best. Alice is here to make sure that like it's so funny that I feel like Alice is doing more to ensure that Bella has human moments than Edward has so far.
I mean, Edward also does. Edward is a hard team plan B, which
Yeah, go to
is
college.
get Bella to college, have human experiences. It's all he wants for Bella
Yeah.
because he wants Bella to be human and have human experiences. Where Bella is just like, sure, whatever. I mean, you guys do all that stuff anyways. Just turn me into a vampire and we'll get around to it, you know? And Edward's like, "No, it's different if you're human than when you're a vampire." I am man, my anti-Edward thoughts are starting real early in this book. Um there's a moment though where in the first chapter where even Bella says she acknowledges the fact that like if she doesn't really mind that she's aging. That's not really her problem with it. It would be very much like an acceptable thing. Except Edward has made it very clear that oh, here we go. They were having a conversation where Alice got her the gift and she's like, "Oh yeah, 18's not very old." And Edward's like, "Mm." And Bella's like, "Mm." And it's
Oh
like it's
yeah.
only a year. It's only a little small tiny baby year. And in Bella's inner monologue, she's like, "And I suppose if I could be sure of the future I wanted, sure that I would get to spend forever with Edward and Alice and the rest of the Cullens, preferably not as a wrinkled little old lady, then a year or two, one direction or the other, wouldn't matter too much to me, so much. But Edward was dead set against any future that changed me, any future that made me like him, that made me immortal too. Um, And, like, that's where her issue lies. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think she minds waiting. I think she minds that
It'll never happen if Edward has something to
yeah,
say.
it's like that she will just continue to age year after year after year, and Edward will stay the same age, and logistically, it will look awkward, if Bella is older and stays immortal, where Edward still looks like a child.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's where her issue lies with it all. Again, fucking Edward. Edward really is like the antagonist of these 3 chapters.
I mean, he
Oh,
becomes
really?
the obvious antagonist of these 3 chapters later on.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I didn't see it much in the first book, because I didn't wanna sway you one way or another, because I know what happens in this book and in the next books. So, I was just like I have a lot of antagonistic views on Edward. I'm not team Edward, team Jacob, whatever. I don't particularly like either of them,
yeah.
but just the fact that Edward is always "woe is me, I am the problem," but then never accepts any responsibility for like, he never takes anybody else's emotional weight onto him. He pretends he does. He acts like he does. Like, "I'm doing this for you. I'm keeping you safe by removing myself from, the situation or removing you from the situation or not inviting you to the situation." When it's like, "No, that's not how you help someone by keeping them away. You
Yeah.
help someone by helping them, by
Until you
you
can't
know
until, like, so you like, you actually cannot like, there's nothing that you can do, but there are things that you can do. Like, it's not yeah, I definitely agree that, like, with that take, especially because he's also just had generally more life experience. You like, I know that he doesn't, like, developmentally progress beyond 17, but he still
Mhm.
has experience in
Yeah.
quantities. So,
Yeah, as we'll talk about when we get to the last chapter here.
yep.
Um, but as we continue on in the
Yeah.
first chapter, uh, Bella gets some gifts from her parents,
Yeah, she
which
gets
are
camera,
Mhm.
scrapbook.
Yeah,
So,
which is a joint present from
yeah.
Carly and Renee. I was like, "Wow, look at you 2."
Coordinating. They
Also, Alice go ahead.
they both like I know we don't they're not very good parents, but they still very much care about Bella greatly, which I think at like that is like a at this point like is good, right? Like
Mhm.
they care enough to not to like coordinate the gift or maybe Charlie conceded to getting the camera because Renee had the idea and Charlie is trying to be better about like okay, if Renee thinks it's a good idea, then I'll do it for Bella or whatever. So
Yep.
I don't give I'm not giving them points, but they're not getting any negatives from me right now for that. you
It's
know?
like, thank you for doing the bare minimum of being
Right,
involved in your
exactly.
child's life.
Yep. Speaking of which, like before we like completely move on to like birthday stuff, part of the thing when they're like back in for this year of senior year, because that's why Renee wanted to give her a scrapbook so she can like do a little like take into account your last year as a high schooler, all this stuff. It's a great year. Um, I highlighted some of the updates on the human friend group. uh, Mike and Jessica broke up. Yikes!
Yeah, they're all awkward about it
Yep.
now.
They're in the was it who were in the awkward post breakup friendship phase. Mike is trying to very poorly emulate someone in particular's hairstyle. And
The
everyone
Harry
else seems
Styles.
like fine. Even though apparently there's a Lauren, though quote unquote, though that last one didn't really count in the friend category. She's just kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, Lauren, not very nice. Apparently
Yep.
still salty about the Tyler thing.
Yep. Yep. Sheesh. But whenever the Cullens aren't around, they end up all chatting up. But when the Cullens are around, they are weirdly intimidated. They don't really like talk as much. Um, but they
Mhm.
all sit at the same table now because since the Cullens table essentially reduced to two after Rosalie and Emmett graduated, so Alice and Edward just hang out with uh Bella and her friends essentially at lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. To acquiesce Bella, right? Like, Bella has many friends. and Edward recognizes that she will stick to him like glue no matter where they are.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that's his attempt of just like be human with humans, Bella. Please, for the love of
Yeah, if you are going to
everything.
be near me, I will be near people so that you are also near people by transitive property.
Yup. And Alice is just honestly happy to be there.
Yeah, I love Alice. Alice, granted, would I have? I don't know if I would have particularly also liked the setup, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Um, which is actually we'll get to it right now. Alice kind of has set up something at the Cullen residence that Bella has tried to squirm her way out of with the excuse of watching the old 1960s version of Romeo and Juliet.
Which, yeah, it's funny because we literally were talking about this
Yeah, we were.
in our last episode. This is the episode, or that's the movie where Romeo looks exactly like Zac Efron.
Yes, right.
So, so if you guys have ever watched Romeo and Juliet, when High School Musical was popular, you would recognize immediately Romeo, and that's the version they're talking about.
Yeah,
The
even
one
though that's
with
not Zac Efron. Zac Efron
No,
was not alive during that movie.
nope.
He
But
was
somehow,
not even
some
in
way, he looks
this.
exactly like him.
You know, good looking dude. Shrug. I have
Very
here
shrug.
highlighted because Edward is conceding to not celebrating birthday things with her but also wanting to watch the movie or going to watch the movie with her because she wants to watch the movie at home for the
Yeah,
assignment or whatever. But I have here highlighted when they are sitting together with mostly him on the couch and then her kind of
I know
like
exactly what you're
nestled.
about to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
What? Ice sculpture. We're moving from marble to ice. And then the thing is, this like theme of cold is like throughout the freaking thing, which I think is a setup for the literal cold shoulder that started happening in the end. But I'm just saying, I could not, I don't know how you cuddle with this man. I'm sorry. That's too cold. Couldn't be me.
It's like it's a I thought you were gonna say for the cold-blooded ones with the Kolyu
Oh
story.
no.
I thought that's where you're gonna go with that
But
one, but
references.
same idea. Um, I well, I mean, I guess it's because she's so in love that like it doesn't matter. Just being near him is enough, even if you're uncomfortable. It's like when
Yeah.
your arm falls asleep under someone when like you're cuddling with them. It's like, well, this is inconvenient and I'm not particularly enjoying this part of it, but like I'm happy to be near you. I feel
Yeah.
like it's that vibe. Just always, at all times.
Yeah. So in the next part of this section, like right before her dad walks in, like content warning, there's allusions to suicide.
Mhm.
And that's probably gonna be a content warning for almost every episode, I have a feeling.
Yes. I
um
as I said at the end of the last one, oh, I found my sticky note, guys. I had my sticky note inside my book the entire time. New Moon is sad and covers themes such as suicidal ideation and descriptions of severe depression, and it's a central theme of the entire book. Also, supernatural racism of shapeshifters versus vampires.
mhm.
Those are the content warnings for the entire book.
Entire book. So we're gonna be touching on it lightly, but essentially, um Edward does divulge into like this feeling of not wanting to live without Bella and how he would go about not like if Bella's gone because he almost conceded that he lost her and at the end of the last book. They go
Mhm.
off on each other being like, how would you feel if I did that, etc., which is like that is an argument that like I have heard from like with other breakups. Like it's actually this is like one of the most like human arguments about like people that are like you. First of all, let me just say you should be able to live with yourself without the need of someone else. You don't need somebody, you want somebody. So like that's like one big problem in this relationship, but that's like part of like the themes of this, right? So like my disclaimer is that you don't need anybody. You need to just love yourself. You want to be with people. That's the big distinction here. But I've heard this like kind of back and forth before. I've probably also have said some sort of things like this before with like being dramatic and before like acknowledging like mental health issues and things like that. It's like it sucks that this like it made me a little sad. I'm like, oh man, these guys are young. I mean, Edward isn't, but like that's his mind. Like they're young. That like this stinks. That this is a conversation that they're having. In also a weird way, it's also awkward because he's a vampire.
I mean, I think it's honestly one of the most teen conversations that they
Yeah,
have, because that is very much because that's what being a teenager kind of is that everything is so immediate. In fact, that's like
yeah,
a lot of my notes about most of this book is that everything seems like right here. This is your
yeah,
entire life instead of like the expanse that it actually is. Like
yeah,
you have literally so much ahead of you, but it's so hard to experience that when this is where every thought is. It is right next to you. It's right in front of you at all points, and you can't see past it.
yeah,
And so that's why these conversations pop up all the time of just like, I can't live without you, et cetera, et cetera. Because you kids genuinely think like, what am I gonna do?
yeah,
I've known you for like a large percentage of my life now. What will I do? Because any percentage is a large amount when you're, like,
yeah.
15,
Yep,
or 18 in this
precisely.
case, and so
But yeah, this conversation did really like that. This is like the most I think it's even like been said before where Bella even makes a note of how articulate and how interestingly patterned the way Edward speaks is because it sounds like it's not from
Mhm.
that century because it's
Yeah.
not. Um, but
Yeah.
like this conversation sounds like a modern conversation. Like
Yeah, although
he embellishes it a little dramatically because Wayne's poetic, but like because it feels romantic, I guess. Um, but like yeah, it's an in, it, I it was interesting to be like, okay, if I was in like that age again, how upset would I be at this, or how much would I relate to this? Because it's just kind of like it was thrown so easily around, right? Saying shit like
yeah.
this. But yeah,
I mean, especially back in the early 2000s,
yeah,
like, that was something you said a lot
yeah,
in jest,
yeah,
it didn't hold any weight, especially between, like, teenagers and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't anything, you would just say it all the time. Um, so for them to go a little bit more deeper into it is very interesting, especially in this kind of, like, lighthearted moment.
yeah,
In parallel with watching Romeo and Juliet,
yeah.
arguably, the I guess the, like, I
How
don't
it would
wanna
have
say,
gone.
like, the star child of this, topic,
Yeah.
but, it is the central theme of Romeo and
Yep.
Juliet,
Can't
and
live without
so
you.
yeah, because again, they were teenagers,
They were
and so
teenagers. We forget that sometimes. A lot of the ages of a lot of the characters in Shakespeare were freaking teenagers.
Yep, and so that is something, especially as we continue going forward, that anyone who's following along reading with us, especially if you tend younger, to keep that in mind is that that is a now thought. That is not a forever thought. Like that is not something you should
Yeah.
keep forever. Like fucking Edward, who's apparently been thinking about this for a decade. You know what? Edward needs just therapy. You know
I
what?
know,
Advocate
right?
for therapy. Go to therapy.
I think they both could use some therapy, to be quite honest. Maybe
Honestly,
Bella more for mommy daddy issues.
codependency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like yeah. I think so. A plot point that came up here that we learn a little bit more of the Volturi, which we did get some mention of these Arturs that Carlisle hung out with a while in Italy, and
Hmm.
that Edward was going to go to them for help if it ever got to that point because they've been around forever. He equates them to like the essentially the equivalent of royalty in their world, the vampire society. So, and they live similarly to the Cullens. Um, so, in fact, I believe that's where Carlisle got the idea to create his own little coven that doesn't
Say say that again?
what the
Your previous sentence.
the Volturi are like the equivalent of royals in this vampire world, according to Edward. He's like, they're not essentially royals, but they're like, some of the earliest, oldest vampires that exist, that they have like
Yeah.
status.
What did you mean by live like the Cullens?
They are not, they're vegetarian.
The Volturi are markedly not vegetarians.
Are they not? Did I
No one is
misread that?
vegetarian. Yeah, no one is vegetarian in this world as far as we know at this moment, aside from the Cullens and the Knilly up in Canada. They're
Oh, I
the
see, I see.
Carlisle was quite literally the one of a kind as far as we know right now. And
Gotcha.
he's
I guess
got
I
the
misread that.
lifestyle.
I guess
It's
I just misread
like
that Carlisle hung out with them, meaning that he got it from them.
no, I mean he did hang out with them. They were
Yeah, he did
friends.
hang out with them.
In the previous book, when it's mentioned in the story, when Edward's telling Carlisle's story, it is mentioned that the reason why Carlisle left, maybe not the reason, but one of the reasons I'm sure, is that Carlisle did not want to live like they did, like the Volturi did, in reference to wanting to eat people. So that is why he eventually moved on from Italy to other locations.
Hmm.
So they do, in fact, are very markedly pro eat people
Pro
or
eat people.
drink people, I guess.
Yeah. So we had this conversation about the Volturi, about like not living with each other, and it gets weirdly interrupted by Charlie rolling up to the door with a box of pizza. I highlighted this moment because this is where I'm going to give Charlie some minus points. Because Charlie comes in with a pizza box, being like, "Hey, I figured you guys didn't want to cook tonight. All right, you got a little plus right there. Great, happy birthday, Bella. Here's some pizza." Minus. Bella is like, "Hey, by the way," oh no. Edward asks, "Hey, can I borrow Bella? We have a little thing at our house." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. The Mariners are playing the Sox tonight." And so he's like, "Yeah, you can do whatever. I'm just gonna be watching the game." Instead of like, I didn't think there was gonna be a family thing at the house anyway. So we were just gonna eat pizza and watch the game.
This is where we are opposite in this moment because I have a plus and a minus in this moment also, where I was just like, that's icky in one, and then the other one, I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's a plus. So all in all, this is a
It's a net. Yeah, it's like a net
is a
zero.
net for you.
Yeah, it's a
In
net
which
zero.
for me, the icky part is that Charlie said, "I thought you'd like a break from cooking and washing dishes for your birthday." I'm just like, Charlie, that's the reason you're gonna let Bella just do. Because first of all, if one of you is cooking, the other one should be washing dishes. Just plain and simple, equality.
Yeah.
Unless there is a special situation that is happening, one of you should do one of you should do the other. Unless you're one of those people that like needs that full control of the kitchen, in which case I'll give it to you. But you should still allow help from other people. Um, but in this situation, Charlie can wash dishes.
Charlie can
He
wash
should be able to
dishes.
he can come back from work. If he's not cooking, he can wash dishes. But I'm just like, "You'd like a break from this for on your birthday? Congratulations." For me, that was like icky. For
Mm-hmm.
me, the plus is that Charlie was letting Bella go to
Sure.
this party. And for him, he's like, "Oh yeah, whatever. They're Mariners and Sox. Like, don't worry about me. It'll be fun. You go, have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy that."
Sure.
I do think it would have been better if they would have invited Charlie. Obviously, I understand
Yes.
as a reader why Charlie can't go to the Collins house.
Yup.
But
Especially with what happens at the party, which we'll get to.
as yeah, um as a if I were Charlie, I would want to be, or if I were the parent of Bella, I should say, not Charlie, because or Renee, because they're both terrible. Is I would want to be at the celebration of my child
Yep.
landmark birthday. 18's a big deal. You're
18's
officially
a
an
huge
adult at
deal.
18.
You
It's
can get
like
drafted. You can vote.
exactly. It's
You can't
like
drink though.
yeah, yeah, not in this country. And
Yep.
so you should. like, wanna do something, and but, like, also the fact that Charlie in that moment is giving her the option,
Yeah.
of you could stay here if you really, really wanted. It'll be low key, it'll
Hmm.
be just another regular night if that's what you really want. Because I think Charlie understands Bella in that way, 'cause
Yeah.
Bella is like Charlie in that moment. So
Yeah.
that's why that was my plus,
Sure.
where it was your minus, and the other one was a minus for me, but a plus for you. So,
Yeah.
interesting
Interesting.
that we both read that 2 ways.
Yeah. But yeah. So they end up heading over in Bella's truck to the house, which I want to point out here. Also, I have highlighted. Um, we find out that well, we knew this, but like it's pointed out even further that the Cullens have FU money, like
Oh, yeah.
just they have just years of investments, and Alice can predict stock markets. Man, with I have to check my lotto tickets. I bought lotto anyway.
Love
I
Mao.
love
It's
Mal.
like, I mean, they've been working. I mean, first of
Yeah,
all, Carlisle has been working as a
yeah,
doctor
a surgeon, a really good surgeon.
for like
Y-
like 300 years.
yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah, so they
so
have
like
money
that's
just from
already,
that.
yeah, that's already a few money. Um but like cuz Alice is only recent in their
Sure,
life,
yeah,
right? He was like what, the 30s, 40s, maybe
something
even
like that.
later. So like it's not like she's been around. And stock markets haven't been around as long as fucking Carlisle has. Carlisle could have put
Yeah,
just money in a bank account, and that is just accrued money.
yep.
Like, and he's that old. Honestly, that's probably why he's gotten that much money.
Huh?
But like all of them have worked. They have grown from high school into college, and I'm assuming they've worked somewhere to just continue their life. Who knows what they've done, but I'm sure they've done it. It'd be weird if they've never worked in their lives.
Yeah, for sure. I was very curious. So Carlisle was born in like 1640s London, right? Like really early. I don't know. It
Mhm.
looks like according to Twilight Wiki that he was changed in 1663.
Okay.
New York Stock Exchange was actually established in 1792, so it's only like 200 years older than him. Like younger
So
than him,
only.
sorry. Only, which is like kind of wild how close he was to that. But the thing is, then that means he has like 200 years of investments,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely. Like I'm
wild.
telling you, that bank account has just been those bonds, they've just been accruing money, baby.
How would he get away with that? Because
And
like, if he
money,
ever,
generational.
oh, I guess he could be like, yes, I'm Carlisle Cullen the Fifth now.
I mean, I
Or
assume they can
trust,
change their
probably the
name.
trust if he's smart. He moves that to a trust as soon as those
Yeah,
become a thing, and then it doesn't matter what the name is on it as long as you write someone else's name on it.
and no taxes, baby. And
No
so
taxes.
it like that's definitely the smartest way. Just a trust into the next person. If you
Yeah.
guys have watched Fantasy High, not Fantasy High, on Sleeping City by Dropout, there's a character there that we'll say regenerates, and she always leaves her money to her predecessor, which is herself, every
Hmm.
single time. So I mean, Carlisle could do a very similar thing. It was just like,
That's
oh,
true.
this
That
is
is very
for this
true.
person. And plus,
Yeah.
since he has to change his life like every what 10 years, 10,
Yeah,
15 years,
essentially.
it's like that's a pretty quick turnaround. It'd probably be very easy to just keep a
Yeah.
similar bank, like same bank account that you just man, his accountant must be like ballin'.
Oh my gosh. Do you think he has to get do you think his accountant knows? Do you think he has a vampire accountant?
I was literally just like vampire accountant.
A
I
vampire
would.
accountant? But granted, I don't know. Like again, we don't know how many other people, how many other vampires that we know of live in society that ones have been mentioned. Allegedly, like you mentioned, it's only Carlisle, like the Cullens and the Denali. Um, but not to trying to let's get this back on track. I mentioned the fuck you money because I want to get off track on a different topic. Uh, Edward wants to buy her a new freaking car.
Dude, obsessed with cars, this man. He's like,
I
you know, it'd
know.
be nice? A nice little silver Audi.
Which, by
Something
the
that could go
way,
over 55.
If Anna wanted to buy me that car, I will take it. I like an Audi coupe.
I would just be like, sure, why not? Bella is much more cavalier about the situation than I would be. I'd be like, absolutely. Go
Yeah, she's just like,
ahead.
no, my
Spoil
truck
me.
has characters. I'm like, no, your truck. I mean, it's a weapon and dangerous more to you at a certain point than it is to anybody else on the road.
Yeah, especially in Forks, Washington, which apparently has had one of the wettest years or seasons that she said, I think, in this.
Yeah,
Like, come on. Come
yeah,
on. Get a car with that can handle these roads.
for sure. So they end up driving
Oh,
up to the house, and
uh-huh.
walk to a very ornately decorated pathway with Japanese lanterns and bowls of rose petals. Alice went all out, and I'm like, girl. First of
Something
all, chill.
is there is a conversation on TikTok where, we all hate the rich, whatever. Um, but
Eat the
it's just
rich.
like one of the reasons that uh this person said on TikTok, the one of the reasons that they really dislike rich people is that none of them have fun with their money. There's
Yep.
no Great Gatsby's. No one is throwing extravagant parties, like showing off their wealth to like the people. Like they do their stuff, but like in secret. And it's like that's boring. You
Yeah.
know,
Be a
be
Gatsby.
be a Gatsby, and Alice would 100 if they would allow Alice to
Oh
live
my
her
god.
life, she would be the Gatsby.
She'd
She'd
be a
be
Gatsby.
like she lives an extravagant lifestyle, and honestly, it's we deserve a Gatsby, Alice Gatsby, right
We
now.
do. Honestly, if Gatsby was like a realish person, and there definitely have been like people like that during like the 20s, Alice was definitely at those parties for sure.
Oh, imagine
Cause she
Alice
could
as
get
a
away with
flapper,
it.
like
Yeah. Oh my god, she'd be so cute. I love that.
she'd be living in her best life.
Yup.
Honestly, like, good for her, but, like, I think that's why moments like this, she's so, like, over the top, because that's
Yeah.
what she wants to do. She's like, "I have all of this, let me have fun."
Yeah.
And even Edward's like, "Look, we don't do this very often."
Yeah.
And
What was the last
everyone's
time?
very excited.
1935?
Yeah, 1935 with Emmett. I guess they just no longer celebrate birthdays. I would still celebrate
I would
stuff.
still celebrate birthday. I would still celebrate personal things. Maybe not my
It's
turning day, but like definitely my birthday.
yeah, it's like you first of all, so much fun you can have with all
Oh
that
my god.
money.
Yeah.
Um, and like it would just be fun, like to do things with your family and have a day to like have an excuse to like have fun. It's just like on days where it's thundering outside, you get to go
Play
play
baseball.
baseball. It's like instead you could like have a party just for you guys and be a little bit extravagant about it. Like change it up every year
Right.
with all 7 of you or whatever. So, yeah, it's, they have a very, like Alice has gone to over the top. She has made everything beautiful for this
Yup.
birthday.
All incredibly
She
pink.
Yeah, all incredibly pink, but you know what? Maybe it's in vogue right now. Maybe, like, that's a style. Maybe that's it. Maybe
I
that's in
mean,
the
it was
fashion
like the early
magazines.
2000s. Pink was kind of in style, like the color
It's
because of
true.
it, like, because this is like what prime, like, early Britney, Christina
I was
Aguilera, right? This is
I'm
around then.
literally
Lisa
about
Frank.
to I'm literally about to look for the jean, suit and dress that Britney and Justin Timberlake wore and see
Oh my
what year
god,
that was,
so good.
specifically because of that. Oh, it was 2001 where they, were
So it
matching
was before
denim.
this book. It was before when
It
this book
was
came
for
out.
this book.
But like it's
Denim,
still the
denim,
same
denim.
era, like early 2000s fashion, wild. Because it was very much
Adventurous.
like, yeah, it was like pop was like pop. Like I think this I was like the early 2000s really defined what pop fashion and music was. Pop has
Early
evolved since
2000
then, but
early
like
2000s was camp. If you're
yeah.
thinking camp, that was the early 2000s.
Oh yeah. Gosh, like I look it's so funny the amount of TikToks I get about like, man, why did we ever do low rise jeans?
I'm just like, those aren't low-rise jeans, that's why. You're
Yeah.
wearing mid-rise jeans. You
And then
don't know what
seeing
low rise
people
are.
try to try to do the low rise are like, how did like they thought they love it, and we're like, no, please stop
We
though.
It's like, please stop that, please. For the love
Yep.
of all that's good.
Um.
Go ahead.
So birthday party, very extravagant at the house. There's presents. She gets a new radio from one half of the group that Emmett, your favorite, is installing. Now, I was reading this part where Emmett was very excited to see Bella, was like laughing and putting in the radio. This is the point where I'm like, I like Emmett because now he has come to the forefront as someone with personality, aside from just someone that is like Rosalie's dude and a big guy and is friendly. Like I don't think we haven't had anything as like this is the most meaningful interaction that the readers have had, I think, for me anyway, that I have had with Emmett. So this is where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Emmett's cool. I like Emmett.
It's like, also they came back from Africa for this birthday because Emmett
literally
wanted to be
just
there.
yeah.
It's like he wanted to be there for the birthday for Bella, which is very cute and adorable.
Yeah.
And
Rosalie, not
Rosalie's
so
just,
thrilled.
I mean, she's happy to be. I think she's just happy to be out of high school. Honestly, I would also be very grumpy if I had to go back to high school
Oh my
again
god,
and
yeah.
again and again. So you know what? Some of that grumpiness, I get it. I get it, Rosalie. But they give her a car radio, which she's already installing. And then Alice and Edward also had a present to
Yep.
go for the loophole of I didn't spend any money. I
Yeah.
didn't do anything.
Yep. He recorded the song he wrote for that, like, I think they're calling it Bella's Lullaby. So he recorded the piano of that. He also recorded the song he wrote for Esme. Essentially made a bunch of piano tracks for her, which is very, very cute.
Yeah.
Honestly, the most romantic thing he's freaking done. So
Yeah. I mean, the field thing was kind of romantic if it wasn't all about if I didn't know what Edward was thinking when they were in the meadow. But it was cute. It was a cute date.
yeah. Let's see here. So we're doing the birthday party, and the next chapter is still in the birthday party, but we're opening up we were gonna open up another present, but our very lovely clumsy Bella has gotten a paper cut. Of note here, during the moment everyone was gathering around for presents, and the moment she got a paper cut, all hell broke loose.
I just want to know how she's opening this present that she gets a paper cut. That's what I
can
want to
see it
know.
happening if you like. I've definitely done it where you like slide your hand underneath like the wrapping. Like I've done it that way before, and I've gotten cut like that. So I can see that happening. I've also definitely done that when trying to like force open cardboard boxes. I've definitely gotten cut before like that, so I can see it. Now, have every paper cut drawn blood? No. So it has to be a pretty extreme paper cut.
It's like, how hard was she going? Like
shunk.
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty precious about opening presents. In which like I'll be pretty methodical about opening them, mostly so I don't ruin the wrapping. But like,
yeah,
just like, do you think did the paper cut happen up here? Did she put it like down there?
My guess is that she like where you fold over and tape. She probably stuck like the way I can see it happening. If you stick your hand underneath the fold where there's no tape and it's face up, so you're slicing it with your knuckles along the box. That's the only way I can see like a big gash being made that draws enough blood.
Maybe I'm starting to understand why Bella is so clumsy.
She just does things weirdly.
Yeah, you're doing things in the way that you were the most likely to get cut.
Yep. So we know that Jasper is the one who has not been a vegetarian the longest and has the hardest time controlling himself. And as soon as this happens, he goes for her. Like he leaps at her like this one whiff and a big launch at her. Edward lunges into action, shoves her out of the way, but into a bunch of fucking glass with this girl, and induces more cuts essentially all along her arm. The Rosalie and Emmett essentially get Jasper in a lockdown. Carlisle asks if she wants to go to the hospital. She's like, no, please take care of me here because I don't need my dad seeing this. And so I essentially go to the operating table of the kitchen to like get stitches done. And we have a very interesting conversation with Carlisle about like what vampire morality is like to debate, you know? Because Bella asks, because like she admires like the work that he does. He's a very good surgeon. He's a very good doctor. And asks like, do you like essentially like you feel like this is making up for anything or all that? And he divulges that it's like it's not that I'm making up for anything. It's just that I'm doing the best I can with what I've been given, the cards I've been dealt. And then he goes into how the day he turned Edward was also the day that Edward's mother died, begging him to do anything, like in his emphasis on his particular power to save her son. And he's like, I swear she probably knew that I was an immortal vampire, that she like particular, like really emphasized my power to do this. And so he did. He kind of just did that after the day after she died, brought the dying Edward to his home and performed the ritual, which he says it might have been a little bit too much. I didn't know what I was doing, but you know, got it done.
It's like it's interesting because that's definitely projection on Carlisle's part. Because Carlisle had been contemplating
Yeah.
creating a companion for him so he could indulge, divulge, I should say,
Yeah.
his real person, who
Yeah.
he is, his legacy, some might say,
Mm,
uh, in order, to continue with life in a different way than he's been leading it, with someone else. And in that moment, like, that's not a unique thing to say when you're dying, especially
true.
for, I'm assuming, a parent, and
Yeah.
to just be like, "Do whatever you can." Like, "You are the doctor here. You are the best in this hospital. Like, you do everything you possibly can to save my son." And Carlisle, obviously having a secret, is like, "Whatever I can do?
Yeah.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't." And so I mean, obviously, he's a lot more eloquent than that, but, like, that had to be his floundering thoughts in the moment,
Yeah.
and but, yeah, so he did that, and, did that for poor little dying of Spanish influenza Edward,
Yep.
uh, but it's nice, and also he had green eyes, so
Yeah.
anyone
We
ever
learned that. Yeah.
wondered, he has green eyes.
Green
But
eyes for pre-turned Edward.
to go back on what you were saying about, Carlisle talking about the morality of being, um, a vampire, I think the reason I like New Moon, and I don't know if this is gonna be a trend that continues, but this is kind of like the accountability book of
Mm,
just like and like reality check book for the characters because at the beginning, literally page 10, right after the moment where Bella's contemplating like, "Well, I'd be fine, going, living a year or 2 longer before I get turned if it weren't for Edward being such a killjoy." Right
mhm.
after that, she says, "I couldn't really see Edward's point, to be honest. What's so great about morality?" And I remember reading that and be like,
It's
"Oh, that's not the words you're looking for here, babe. It's not
yeah,
morality."
it's kind of like what like society is built on,
Yeah, it's like
having good
that's a
morals.
it's like all the Colons have good morality. In fact, I'd like, argue a lot of vampires that are still alive had great morality. Otherwise, they no longer would be alive, probably. And she continues to say, being a vampire didn't look like such a terrible thing, not the way the Colons did it anyway.
Yeah.
And so going to Carlisle and speaking about the situation, and it's a very thinly veiled conversation about Edward.
Hmm.
Being like, why is Edward so against this? Like, why is he not happy about this? And Carlisle's like, I kind of just am digging it. I'm just vibing, honestly, TBH with you.
Hmm.
If this is what I've been given in life, and I'm gonna do what I can as God has given me. And Bella's like, oh, in her mind, she's like, oh, I've never really thought about it that way. I'm not really religious. And
We find out that vampires are a little religious, or at least Carlisle the vampire is. But that's from being a pastor's or priest son.
and then we also find out that Edward sees it kind of like Carlisle, but is a lot more dramatic about it
Oh yeah.
because he does not believe that in this situation he believes that there is a heaven and that there's a hell, and he just does not think that vampires are going to the good place.
Yeah.
Like he thinks that they because their soul is lost. This ambiguous idea of a soul is completely lost about after turning into a vampire. And
Yeah.
it's like he's trying to atone forever is what Edward's trying to do. And maybe it's this idea, and maybe it's that same concept of when your parents are big, they're a big person, they're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they're one of, the big ticket titles. You always pale in comparison. Like you're never
Mm,
gonna be that. And if they even though Carlisle doesn't feel like the type of person who would be like, um, you know, I'm raising you to be like a doctor. I know you're gonna be a great doctor. You're gonna do
yeah.
great things. He doesn't feel like he's one of those people. However, I feel like maybe Edward feels that way. Like, I'm never gonna be like Carlisle. I'm never gonna be that. And maybe that's the weight he's holding.
Maybe. I feel like though, if he wanted to be like Carlisle and have like a righteous path in like helping people, for example, he
Mhm,
definitely has like the skills to do so. Granted, he looks very young, but
mhm.
like there are ways to do it and like do things similarly. It doesn't have to be exactly a doctor. But like I feel like Edward has the talent, power, and intelligence to follow similarly in Carlisle's steps if he really truly wanted to be that way. But I feel like maybe part of the reason why he doesn't do that is because like Edward says, like their souls are lost. So like what's the point? And then he's just like kind of living and floating through life now,
Yeah.
enjoying
It's
music and cars.
it's like he's just pretty ambivalent about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we continue on, and after this conversation, Edward comes in and is like, I'll take Bella home. And even Bella, and like everyone feels like the shift in the room. Like Edward's a little like, ooh, because they all sent Edward out to go talk to Jasper because, Jasper's gonna feel bad about the
Yep.
situation. And Edward's really the only person who can
Yeah.
talk him down from being as upset at himself as he's gonna be. Although I'm sure he's still very upset.
Yeah.
Um, Embarrassed probably.
Yeah.
And so when they come in, they feel the shift in the room of just like Edward being like real off kilter almost.
Yeah.
And Bella is like, "Oh no." Like it's like that Taylor Swift song, I've seen this all before and I didn't like the ending,
Yep.
And so she's like, "No, no, no, Carla can take me. Carla can take me." It's like, "No, no, I'll take you. I will take you. It's fine." And so they get and don't even touch the
The
new
new
radio.
radio. It's so God.
A- And and they're just like in silence for a good long while until she's just like you were saying, taking on all the responsibility for what happened. It was just like, no, it's my fault. And everyone's like, your fault. This would never happen if you were at Mike Newton's house. And
Yeah.
like, if you cut yourself there, the worst that would happen is someone would give you a band aid. And it's like, if you had glass shards all over your arm, like it would be fine. They just have to clean it up. Instead, you have to live with us who want to destroy you at all times or whatever.
Yeah. I had that passage highlighted too, which like, yeah, that's true. If she was in a normal ass relationship, that would exactly what that would happen. And I get like it's interesting, right? Because I see it's interesting trying to see both sides because like, yeah, Edward knows he's dangerous. He's been trying to tell Bella stop. Like we but also is not really like also trying to stop up until right. I think this moment though is the moment where he does start to try and stop. Because we'll find out in the later chapters, but I just get so annoyed at Bella for not like seeing his perspective.
Because it's a stupid perspective.
I
What?
don't truly
Edward
think
is
so,
like
though.
Edward is so extremes. He's
He's
either
extreme,
like
but I think it's still a similar message of like, it's still the same. I'm dangerous. Don't be near me. We're all vampires that eat humans. We just try very
here's
hard not to.
here's my issue is that there are ways to mitigate the danger in that situation in which they very clearly portrayed. They clearly showed that they are perfectly able to handle a situation of worst case scenario
True.
twice now. You know, like they all came in and saved Bella when she was absolutely broken from James. You know, they were all there and they all dealt with the situation and removed themselves from the situation because it wasn't safe
Yeah.
for you know, for Bella and also for them because they don't want to hurt Edward. That's why they all feel bad whenever something bad happens to Bella. And so even at this party, the moment that Jasper, you know, started losing control of himself, Edward was there, Emmett was there, Rosalie was there. Immediately they took him out. Esme started cleaning up the blood with bleach. And, you know, Carlisle started removing or started treating Bella. Alice went to go get the bag. Edward was stuck somewhere in the middle, as he always is, with indecision of
Yep.
understanding what to do in this situation. Because he's trying to live this relationship as a human, and you're not. You have to take this relationship as you are a vampire, you are a human,
Yep.
you have to take
I agree with that.
precautions. You have to live, you know, a certain thing. And it feels like literally everyone is finding ways to deal with this relationship, to adapt to this relationship, except Edward. Edward feels like he's the only one who refuses to change his ways for Bella, but refuses to do anything otherwise. Like, everyone has issues with blood. He has issues with blood,
Yep.
and they all
She
deal with the
has issues with
situation
blood.
differently. She has issues with blood, you know? Like, only Carlisle's there just being like, "This is whatever
Yeah.
to me."
Yeah.
And so
Years of
it
practice.
years of practice. And so it's the fact that he refuses to do it. Like he's always just like hot. He's very hot and cold. You know, like it's like, oh, I'm so into you, and you know, we'll figure out a way to make this work. And he's like, he has the solution. Turn Bella. This is your forever. You've clearly made it so clear that without Bella, there is no you. And Bella has made it very clear that without you, there is no Bella. So like you are destined to be together. Um, it just accept
Star-crossed lovers, in fact.
it, it's like you don't have to accept the fact that like Bella has to be turned, but you have to accept the fact that you have to deal with a Bella that wants to be with you forever, you know, and what
Yeah.
that means for your relationship, you know, and everyone knows about it. Rosalie knows the solution, Emmett knows the solution, Alice knows the solution, Carlo and Emmett or and Esme know the solution,
Yep.
Bella knows the solution. Who and Edward knows the solution. He is just being stubborn about it because he is like, I don't want to be the monster in the situation. I don't want to risk myself for this situation, which is fine. You shouldn't have to, you know, be forced to change anything. But also don't take that free will from Bella of wanting to be changed by someone else. Even Carlisle's like, oh, no, 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 that's between you and Edward. I'm not going to get into the situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's such a dumb take because that's all Edward. It's like, no one
Yeah.
will do it because Edward has explicitly told them, no, don't. This is between me and Bella. And they're like, okay, you know, we're family, sure. But everyone knows how this is gonna end up.
That's true.
Everyone knows. And Edward's the only one that's being all woe is me. He's playing with Bella's emotions. He's playing with the relationship. And that's why I hate Edward. Uh,
Thesis
signed
thesis
PB.
done. This is how we hate Edward Cullen.
essay
I
is my
guess while we're
PB.
on this hate train, we can probably get into like the aftermath, right? So we get into the next few days of school after her birthday, and like for what it's worth, they have a really awkward car ride home. He drops her off. She asks him to stay. They have a really intense kiss. Really, really, ooh, a little spicy. No, oh my god, the way that sheet, like the sheet was in between them for that, I was like, Lamau. So funny to me. I was like, oh my god, the amount of times people have been in this situation when there's a layer in between.
Even the line where he's just like, oh, I don't remember how it started. But he's like, Bella's like, oh, is it the blood or is it my body?
The blood or my body. I'm like, oh.
I was like, oh my god. What a sweet thing to say. But
yeah. Yeah. I mean, though, I will say, if she's feeling herself in that moment, because she's always described herself as plain, I'm like, there you go, Bella.
It's like, get it, you know?
Yeah.
Feel yourself, like,
feel yourself, yeah. Yeah, confidence. I love that. That's sexy. Confidence is sexy.
Exactly.
So there's a little bit of that, but then the next few, like, this chapter is called The End, which essentially we go through days where so Alice had to also leave for a little bit because she's with Jasper, because Alice is left because Jasper had to leave. They are figuring that out because he can't be there right now. I'm probably also a little embarrassed about what happened. But they go through days where they're hanging out still. Edward is like bringing her to her car. They're going through classes together, but he's not very talkative.
Growing more and more detached.
More and more detached, incredibly cold, and both literally and figuratively. And like Bella is always, well, I don't want to say that she is overthinking it, because like she's thinking like she's overthinking it in like different ways of like, did I do something wrong, or is he still embarrassed, like what happened afterward, like what's up with Jasper. She's overthinking in the wrong ways, but the way that I was reading all of this, I'm like, I've literally been here. And then like the thing is, it was not like, because like I don't think definitely Bella didn't see it coming, but I saw it coming, because I've been in this situation where the other half is distant. Like, they're gonna break up. He's gonna break up with her. Like, it was like, I honestly, this is like where it's like very crappy to be an empathic reader like this, because then after I read this, I was really sad. I was like incredibly sad because of like, not because of the breakup. Like, I like that's fine with me. Like, Edward is like, this is what's happening because we had to leave. And also like, I'm just gonna leave out of your life because this is my solution. I don't know if I agree with the reason for the breakup, but like the breakup had happened. So like, okay, that's happening. But it was more so the delivery and the growing coldness and the like distancing that I'm like, oh, that this feeling is incredibly relatable. That this dread that like Bella wasn't feeling, but I was feeling, because I know from experience.
It's quite genuinely some of the best writing I think Stephanie Meyer has done.
Yeah.
Is this sequence, in this like chapter 3 to 4, and a little bit further. Because like I said, it's the most relatable in the way it was written. Like, something has shifted, something has changed. You just don't know which way it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And you have this hope that it's going to be a good news situation, even though they're detaching further and further away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel yourself like keep trying to catch them and they just keep pulling further away. And Bella understands what's happening, but like also it's her first relationship, so she doesn't
understand what's happening.
Yeah. And so, and also I don't think she can fathom, she can't fathom being away from Edward. That is quite literally her worst nightmare. And so that it's not even, I think, a thought she allowed herself to think. That's why and I think if she were ever to think that, immediately she would think something else. She's like, no, it has to be something else, right? Everyone's just leaving. It's fine. It's one more year. It'll be fine. It honestly, it felt like huge copium from Bella.
Oh, incredible amounts of copium. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Incredible coping mechanism.
It's like, she's just like, no, it's fine. What's another year, to an immortal? What's another year? It's like, it'll be fine. Jasper will come back. Alice will come back. It'll be fine. Edward will be fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
And
even like to the point of like that like little picture session, how it felt so incredibly awkward and like, let's have fun because we're a couple. Like,
yeah. And it's just like the inevitable. I think that's I mean, it's called The End, but, like, chapter names, whatever, but it definitely felt inevitable. Like, you
Yeah.
knew what the end was gonna be, but you also kind of are huffing the copium because 'cause we're chapter 3.
We got
How
we
is
got
this
two more books to go.
it's like, even when you're reading it, if you don't know that there's a book after fucking, uh,
Yeah.
New Moon, you're just like, "It's chapter 3. What do you
Yeah.
mean they're gonna break up? What's the rest of the book about? He's leaving? What's
Yeah.
happening?" It's like, I remember reading this and thinking those thoughts of just like, "What? What are
Where is
we
this
what is
going? Yeah.
where's this going? I have this much book left. If they're breaking up now," I'm just like, "They're not gonna break up. There's more book left. It'll be fine." And then it's like they're leaving. And I'm like, "They're not leaving. That's not." And then just like it's written, it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as
The
because
weird mechanical way of watching the game with Charlie.
yeah. And then the last night they're together.
Yeah, taking a walk in the woods to do the breakup essentially, or it's break the
Yeah.
news. He didn't say they were breaking up, but incredibly implied it with the whole "you'll never see me again." But they never actually said the words "we're breaking up." So he's just like, "I'm gonna leave, and I still love you, but I gotta go. We're leaving, and this is a goodbye forever."
Yeah, well, he said, "I don't wanna be with you anymore.
Yeah, he did.
I
Oh
need
yeah,
to
yeah,
move
yeah,
on with my life." All things you hear in a breakup,
yeah.
Like,
You're
I don't
not
wanna
good
be
for me.
yeah, I'm leaving,
Yep.
and honestly, like, good on Bella. She really despite what happened afterwards, she really dealt with the moment very well. She's
Yeah,
just
the in the
like
moment incredibly well.
she was just like, "Oh, well, that changes things." I'm like, "That wouldn't have been my response to that."
Nope,
You know?
nope, nope,
That's
nope.
very growing up of you. That's a very healthy response.
I only had
And
that kind of reaction on my second breakup, so
and it's just like and she just kept being like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, "We're leaving." It's like, "What?" And it's like, I mean, how long can we stay here? It's been long enough. We have to move on. And it's like, "Okay, I'll go with you, right?" Right, it's almost like leaving a dog behind, like
I
dumping
know.
a dog. It was
No.
like and like you said, it hurt to read this.
Yeah.
It was a painful read because again, Bella is a self-insert character. It is a YN or it's a reader X, whoever book.
Yep.
You have to insert yourself in the character to then,
Yeah.
continue to really embrace the book. So you're getting broken up with when you're reading this, and you're just like, what are we gonna do? What do you mean you're leaving? I have
Yeah.
400 pages left in this book. What do you mean?
What do you mean? Um, yeah, it was I mean, it was as dramatic as Edward usually makes things. Ends up uh leaving her in the woods, but not like I don't
He
know if
leaves
her
her.
he
He
leaves her
leaves.
very close to the house though.
Yeah, like basically because it's been described in the first book that there's a trail next
In
to
the
their
back of the
house that
house,
goes into
yeah.
the woods. And so they've walked there a million times
Yeah.
in the first book. So like I'm assuming they walked in a bit, they had the conversation, and as Edward is leaving down the trail, obviously Bella is following him. And I'm assuming he left her at the like almost entrance of the
Yeah.
trail.
That's what she
And
says when they find her, because
yeah.
she essentially blacks out from emotional damage
Well, she
here.
goes catatonic,
Yeah,
essentially. Like
yeah.
she is
She like
so
wanders off a bit into the woods, falls over, and is like asleep and out for like hours.
yeah, catatonic essentially because she cannot it's too much. It's an emotional overload for her, and therefore she is out. She is unresponsive to anything. She has a moment where there is what was a muzzle, I think she described it as, that, came up to her, in one of her, like, blackouts when the voices were getting farther away,
Mm,
and then, she blacks out again, and then the next time she hears the voice calling to Bella instead of just, like, looking for the name.
Mhm.
Because obviously Charlie,
Yeah.
chief of
He's got
police,
resources, like
he's
small
looking.
town volunteers, like,
And he knows exactly where Bella is because Edward left a note for him.
in her
Um,
hand.
yeah, in her handwriting, saying, like, "Out in the woods, be back." And she was, in fact, not be back.
No.
Um, she just fell on the forest floor. She tripped over something classic, and
Yeah.
then just stayed on the ground and never got back up. Which
Yep.
honestly, what a relatable feeling though when you are
God.
emotionally devastated.
The like God, one of my breakups, man, it was in middle college. I was just in my room all day and blasting Death Cab for Cutie. I feel that.
It's like, what did I for some of those moments, what I wouldn't have given to just, like, be on the forest floor, just being rained
Oh,
upon.
yep.
And so they
Yeah.
eventually find her. Sam something Quealy, I think, finds
Sam,
her.
yeah, Sam Yuli, Sam something. I'll
Sam
find it.
Muley. Yeah. Finds her and it's just like, "Hey, Bella, are you Bella?" And it's like, "I'm here to help you. I'm here to bring you back. I'm search party with Charlie." And Bella's like, "What?" Like, and he even like to display how out of it she is, Sam puts his arm down as like, "Let me help you up." And Bella looks at it like, "What am I supposed to do with that? Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean?" That's how
Yeah.
much she's not in the
Yeah.
moment. Um, and apparently as he's carrying her out, uh, she keeps repeating, what did he say?
He's gone. He's
He's
gone.
gone, he's gone. And
Um,
Poor Charlie, man.
Yeah. And he Charlie then goes on to kind of like interrogate her for a little bit. Like, did he leave you here? Like, is this like essentially is this Edward's fault that you are in the woods blacked out? Which, yeah,
Yeah,
as a parent, I'd be very concerned. I walked out to the freaking woods for a walk with my now ex, and I didn't come home right away. That's incredibly concerning. Or like
yeah,
as like that's like wild. But she's like, I got lost. It's like all the typical Belle things. I got lost. I was in view of the house. I wandered off. And then we also learned that the Cullens have pieced. Carlisle got an offer from a big fancy hospital in LA, and they had to make an immediate change. So like Dr. Durandi is there. So we're meeting all these humans.
yeah. It's like Dr. Grandy, Sam, and oh, somebody
There's
else.
someone
I don't
else.
think that was named.
Yeah, there's
Along with
like a
Charlie
few
that were
people.
there.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of people that were looking for Bella also that
Yeah.
aren't mentioned in the scene.
Yeah, because he eventually
Apparently the
calls.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the boys from the Coyotes, essentially. Billy's guys.
Yeah, Billy's guys. Um, Speaking of Billy, so they end up taking Bella home, and he like gets her on the couch, takes care of her, and then he calls Billy to be like, "Yeah, we found her," like confirming like you can call it off. But then also like someone else called, being like, "There's fires happening." And so he also let like Billy know, like, hey, there's also fires happening, like I think on the reserve. And he's like, oh, that's just like we find out the Quilutes are celebrating the Cullens leaving. Um, because they don't, well, as we remember, they have beef, and like Charlie's kind of off put by this because he liked Carlisle because he like Carlisle's a good doctor, et cetera, et cetera. So like
But
he's a little off put by
also
that.
but also if you think about it, like if you just really wait a second and think about what you imagine when you think a bunch of people are starting
That's
fires in
true.
celebration of somebody leaving because
Yeah,
they didn't like them in
yeah,
celebration,
yeah,
that's extremely problematic.
yeah,
You know? Like I understand the cool youths, but like that's extremely problematic. That
yeah,
imagery. So especially from Carlisle's point of view, not knowing any supernatural business, it's just, oh, a family came in and they hate them,
yeah,
ostracized, aren't allowed over here.
yep.
And then they leave now celebrations. I don't and yeah, and so I think I don't know if that was that the same moment. I thought that was like the next day or whatever.
No, it was that same night because or morning because it was like probably it sounded like it was almost like 2 or 3 a.m. when they found her.
Yeah.
Um, But then a few minutes later, the phone rang again, and then it's like all of this,
Mhm.
like these phone calls and stuff. And she's in and out. She's like barely hearing the conversations, but we do get it from Belle's point of view that these are things that happen.
Yeah.
Um, he also kind of interrogates her again, like they didn't tell you that they were going to LA or whatever, and this is where we find out all of that. Um, Bella ends up being like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Goes to her room, finds that the CD and photos are missing because Edward is a speedy little boy and yoinked everything to be as if he was never there. Except
A
for the
clean
way that
break.
she wrote his name, wrote like Edward and Bella during my birthday or whatever in the scrapbook.
And it's like, as he said, he described it, he wanted it to be a clean break. In fact, Bella said, "I'm never gonna see Alice again. Alice is gone too."
Yeah.
And it's like, I told her not to come say goodbye, she wanted to, but I told her no because it's easier on you if you have a clean break. Again, taking away Bella's agency, but anyways,
Mm,
it, um, it yeah, he came in, he took everything, anything and everything,
yep, that was
that could
related to him.
remind Bella of Edward in order to make it a quote unquote "clean break."
Yep.
Um,
Yikes. We then get into this moment that you kept hyping up, and I really enjoyed it actually. The next four chapters are blank pages with the names of the months on them. And it did end up being a blank, it just had the chapter title and it was just a blank page, and I would hit turn the page, and it was the same thing again on the Kindle. So I did get a blank page for each month. It wasn't like a spread, it was just one page. So I don't know if it was a spread in the
yeah.
book, but I get it as like a
Mm-mm.
singular screen. Um,
Yeah. It
you get a
is
whole,
you get October,
yeah.
you know, no November,
Yeah.
December, and it goes on until you reach the beginning of chapter 4.
Yeah, you can't even like
Um,
see it on mine, but mine are at the top instead of the center.
yeah.
But same effect. Um, but essentially, we pass time from the rest of October through January until we get to the official chapter 4 called "Waking Up," and there's only one paragraph on the page for me on my Kindle anyway, and then it
Yes.
gets into the bulk of the chapter. So I assume that's like what you mean. So best part is I didn't have to turn the page and spoil myself or anything, or like stop ahead of it. It's just already broken there for me, so that's good. But um I did enjoy that. It was a very good way of emulating a very empty time passing during a
Mhm.
moment where you're so emotionally empty and drained. And even if you're not, even if it's like a better mood, like catharsism, like I think like I've definitely again felt a very similar emotion to this where I'm like, what am I gonna do after this big breakup I've had? Right. Granted, mine
Mhm.
was not, didn't last, like I managed to figure it out because it's not the first time I was broken up with. So
Yeah.
like it doesn't take me October, November, December, January, 4 months. um, but yeah, like it's a very, very good uh writing mechanic here, and I did enjoy that. So big free props, Stephanie Meyer. You get a +1 here. I like this.
It's like I remember reading it um for the first time because I went in from Twilight into New Moon. It wasn't a I didn't have like a large break because the books
Hmm.
were already out when I started reading them.
Yeah,
In fact, again, I bought Eclipse first, and then I realized that two other books existed, so I had to go buy New Moon and Twilight before I could start the series. So
yeah,
I finished. I read basically the entire end of Twilight, those like last 100 books where there's actual plot, and then I immediately started New Moon because it was a happy ending at the end of Twilight. So I was like, what's the worst part's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of this book, like I'm going to
yeah,
have time to like enjoy them finally being a couple and happy and dealing with the ramifications of what happens to James. Instead we kind of gloss over the James thing by just saying it was a wonderful summer
yeah,
and, the best Bella's ever had, and then getting back into the school year, to Bella's birthday, and so, um, when I read this again, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm reading this, it's fun, fun beginning of
fun,
book, I
fun,
can't
fun.
wait."
What
In
a
fact, like
good book.
yeah, like the first like 20 pages are really just like a recap of what Twilight is and who these characters
Vampires are
are.
cool.
It's like, oh, they have these powers and stuff. And this is her relationship with each of the Cullens. And uh-oh, there's a conflict. Bella got cut. It's fine. That's not a big deal. You know, they dealt with the James thing like, I don't know, 4 months ago. So it'll be fine. It's not
It'll
that
be
big of a deal.
fine.
Wait a second. What do you mean? Wait, what's happening? Why is he what is happening? This isn't I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. What's happening? What's happening right now?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then it's just like you just get sucked in on you go from this emotional high to this very emotional low, especially as a teenager, especially me as a teenager,
Mhm.
who was struggling with depression and stuff like that. So this like was almost like listening to a sad album, a
Yeah.
sad album. It really sucked me in and really very much I felt very empathetic and sympathetic to the entire thing. And when I reached that like, you know, the last lines before we get to October through January is I didn't lose consciousness. The waves of pain that had only laughed at me before and now reared high up and washed over my head, pulling me under. I did not resurface. And then we enter October,
November.
November, December, January, and then you get waking up and just like having to take that time to turn each of the pages and to like process what just happened. Like, not only that, but you're seeing time literally pass in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Just like, wait. Because usually they do the time skip thing where they're like, summer was great. That was
Yeah.
3 months you didn't see.
Yep.
Instead, I'm visually seeing time pass of just her not resurfacing. And then you read waking up and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And then you read, you know, even time passes, even for me. And it's like, oh my God, Stephanie Meyer, you didn't have to hit me that hard.
Right? Like
It's chapter 3.
it's chapter 3. What are we doing for the rest of the book? Like I said, like I've been in that like so like that deep slump. Like the first breakup I had with the like this first big breakup that I had was freaking like in my room blasting Death Cab for Cutie. And quite honestly, I'm going through these pages and then I'm just hearing your new twin size bed on fucking repeat in my head. I'm like, I hate this so much. Good song, by the way. That's a great Death Cab for Cutie album, by the way. So can't tell me otherwise. It's been a while though
I
since I
want you
listened
to
to it because
know.
it's incredibly sad.
So speaking of sad, I wanted to tell you the soundtrack of New Moon so you
Oh
get a
yeah.
vibe for what this book is going to be about. So, funnily enough, as you say this, track 1 is "Meet Me on the Equinox" by Death Cab for a Cutie.
Great, I didn't listen to that song, but the fact that there's fucking Death Cab for Cutie on this thing.
Also, first track. So, that's the vibe from the very beginning of this one. So, on the nose on that one right there. Then we have track 2, "Friends" by Band of Skulls. Track 3, "Hearing Damage" by Thom Yorke. 4, "Possibility" by Likely. That's the if you've watched New Moon, that's the song everyone knows. You'll know that song if you've watched the movie. Also, if you watch TikTok. 5 is "A White Demon Love Song" by The Killers. 6
That's a
is
good one too.
"Satellite Heart." 6 is "Satellite Heart" by Anya Marina.
Okay.
7 is "I Belong to You," Muse. 8
That's a good
is
one too.
let me tell you a thing about soundtracks for Twilight. They all fucking slap.
I mean,
The
the
first
way
track
that half
is
of
so
these are
good.
my spot of my freaking like playlist from back in the day and my freaking mix CDs, like the way that it is.
They're very good. 8
Very
is
good.
"Rosalind" by Bon Iver and Saint Vincent.
Oh, okay.
9 is "Done All Wrong," Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. 10 is "Monsters," Hurricane Bells.
Oh,
11
those are
is
gonna be different monsters. Anyway, continue.
11 is "The Violet Hour," Seawolf. 12 is "Shooting the Moon" by OK Go.
That's a
13
good one
is
too.
"Slow Life." by Grizzly Bear with Victoria Legend, or Legrand, my bad. 14 is No Sound But the Wind by the Editors. And 15 is a special track, New Moon, The Meadow by Alexander Desplat.
Those are some
So
good
that is
songs. Those are some good songs. Fucking wow.
so that is the New Moon soundtrack.
Just know that I'd probably be using them as some of our backtracks if we freaking didn't have to worry about DMCA. Let me tell you.
Yep, those are the official ones. I'm sure Stephanie Meyer has her own
Yeah.
uh uh, playlist that she has when she was writing it. But yeah, that's what you have to look forward to. First
All
of all
right.
bangers. Second of
Yeah.
all, you can see a trend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
There's definitely a trend.
but is there anything else about what we read that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. This is like a very like this chunk of chapters was a really good setup for what we'll be dealing with for the rest of the book.
Mhm.
Like it's pretty straightforward. Like there really isn't a lot aside from her opening dream. There's not a lot of like reading into what's happening. It's actually like incredibly straightforward. The deepest we got was the conversation about morality as a vampire, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in the rest of what the rest of this is. Now, did I get as like I did get mad at Bella? Oh, not as mad as I got at Harry in book 5. So like I'm still angry with her, but also I am feeling for her as I've been in this situation where you feel
Yeah.
like there's someone that you cannot live without. Again, we have moved on past that as adults. We figured it out. We figured ourselves out a little bit. We're still working on it. But again, when you're a teenager, it's like I can't live without you. How can I live without you? You know, one of those. That granted, no teenager at the time, like I was not gonna be caught dead listening to that song. That's like freaking 106.7 Light FM nonsense there. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's very straightforward. I'm looking forward to the next section to see I mean, we're gonna learn how Bella has dealt with it, i.e., how she has not, because 4 months have passed and nothing has happened, quite literally, in the book.
And
And
interestingly, chapter 4 is called Waking Up. What wakes her up?
yeah, we shall
What's the
see.
catalyst?
We shall see. And I think that we can jump right into our W's and L's of the week. I think my W here is actually going to is I don't know. I really have a W, but I really have a really good L. And my L for the week is glass. Glass can fuck off. Alice, I mean, I'm sure this is the only second big experience that Bella has had due at the hands of shattered glass. But now, if there's any other celebrations moving forward, Alice, you need to get plastic. You cannot have glass. No fancy bowls, no glassware. You can't have glass around this girl anymore. This is the second time that she has gotten fucked up by melted sand. That's my L. I'll get back to you on a W.
All right, my W's are Possibility by Likely. Shout out to them. And also, the modern Possibility by Likely would be Exile by Taylor Swift. So, those are my W's for the week. Also, my L for the week is tied between Renee's absolutely abysmal parenting and Edward's absolute inability to take responsibility for anything ever in his entire life, except running away. Those are my L's for the week.
I think my W is probably like my easy W is just Alice made a little birthday party, but I actually think my W is gonna go to Carlisle for having that conversation. I think that's like
Yeah.
I think it helped because like Bella did say that a light bulb turned on when he said something, so like she kind of is starting to get it a little bit, which like again, it's not on her to completely understand their life because it's not her life, but it at least like helped to give her some perspective. So that's my like good W. I don't really know. Like I guess the other, you know what? W hair gel for Mike to to get away with looking like Edward.
We also didn't talk about talking about that light bulb moment. Bella, in understanding the situation, started kind of understanding what it would mean if she would to turn, what it
Yeah.
would mean with Charlie and Renee in her life.
Yeah.
So that was also, uh, you know, also a lesson in having honest conversations with teenagers. Who
Yeah.
would have known? It
Right.
works.
It's like they have minds of their own and have formed. It may not be like the wisest, smartest thing because they don't have life experiences, but they have experiences, feelings, and emotions. So
Exactly. You should probably respect them and,
yeah, treat them like
listen to
human
them.
beings.
Yeah, crazy concept.
Even
I know.
if vampires can do it, so can other human beings.
Exactly. Don't be a Renee.
Don't be a Renee. Be
Don't
a
be Renee.
Carlisle.
Be a Carlisle.
That was really good. This is a very good start to the book, I think. I'm liking it a lot better than Twilight so far. So that's my quick take.
Oh.
My quick take so far.
Yep.
But yeah, so y'all can join us on the Knilly Online Discord to discuss the episode or ask questions after the show. If you're in my Twitch chat right now, !Discord, or you can find the link in the description if you're catching this on YouTube or now on your favorite podcasting platforms, because I'll put the links there as well. This recording and past episodes can be found on the YouTube channel, on the Spotify, on the Stitcher, Knilly Pb podcast. Just search it up. New episodes will go up on Friday after the recording on every platform because Anchor FM makes it really easy for me to do that. So be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, follow us, all of the things. I have to do all of the call outs now, guys. I have to figure out all of the CTAs. I know on Spotify it's follow us. So follow us on Spotify and I guess follow us on Stitcher and subscribe to us on YouTube. If I'm asking too much of you, I'm sorry. This is just how things work.
Exactly. Just, whichever one is most convenient for you.
Yeah,
Make
exactly.
sure to just follow us. It shows us that you like what you're listening to, and it encourages us to do more.
We're gonna get through all of Twilight, but this will turn into the Knilly Pb book club. We can also take book recommendations if you join us in Discord.
Leave them in the comments on YouTube.
Leave them in the comments on YouTube. I think I might have turned them off, but Spotify has like voice comments, which I'm like, what? Hello? What's this? I'm gonna explore this. Podcasting is hard. But thank you all so much for hanging out and listening, and we'll see you all on the internet. Bye.
Bye.